Mayor Martini. Council members Ratty. Here. Lawson. Here. Smith. Here. Kerrigan. Absent. Schmidt.
Here.
City Attorney Adams.
Here.
City Manager Driscoll.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay. We do not have an invocation speaker today, but if we could all have a moment of silence for those that are in danger and are protecting our country, and those that have protected us in the past and died for our country. So if we could just do a quick moment of silence for those people, please. Thank you. If you'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mr. Lawson, would you lead us?
Yeah, please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me, sir.
You're supposed to genuflect when you go by, okay? Okay, comments from the public. If anyone who wants to speak under comments from the public, please fill out one of these cards, and I have one speaker. I looked at it real quick. It says John Wynn, but I thought it said John Wayne. Come on up, Mr. Wynn.
We give honor and respect to the mayor and the city council. My name is John Wynn. I'm a native of Reno, Nevada, born and reared. I'm the only son of 9 siblings and of the parents of the late Reverend W.J. Wynn and Rochelle Wynn. As an elementary school student here in Washoe County in the 70s, I was faced with many academic challenges and had to learn to succeed through the blessed help of many teachers and mentors. Through my personal experience as a career pastor, I know what causes our students to leave and conversely what inspires them to stay in school and succeed. We have a great deal of work to do here in the Washoe County School, and I believe I bring a number of strengths to help to get the job done. As a pastor, I teach people how to respect themselves and others, and they can achieve no matter what their circumstances are. As a bishop, I've been experienced in managing businesses, and I believe in fiscal responsibility. Being creative and doing more is what I do is a big part of my job. Through the years, I've been honored to serve on several boards and commissions that are concerned about youth and education. Currently, I serve on the Education Alliance of Washoe County, the P16 Advocacy Board, the Reno Chief of Police Advisory Board, the African American Clergy Council of Northern Nevada. I'm also a chaplain for the Reno Police Department and a proud member of the Chambers Leadership Reno Sparks class of 2004. I'm the founder of the Youth Empowered to Succeed and a youth leadership program we did it here at Dilworth, Sparks High School, and Spanish Springs, and we're currently at Spanish Springs as a high school mentoring program that helps kids overcome their challenges. Lastly, I have a great experience in bringing together diverse community groups to solve complex problems like we are facing here in Washoe County School District. I believe it takes the Board of Trustees, the superintendent, the business, the political arena, the academic and faith-based communities, as well as parents to work together to inspire all our kids to believe that it's possible to graduate from high school, obtain higher education, succeed in highly skilled careers, and achieve their goals. I know from experience that we are better when we work together. Our school system is the bedrock of our community. I'm passionate about bringing people together to find the solutions that will strengthen our school district and improve our opportunities for all students because our community's well-being depends on it. And I'm just here to let you know that I am a candidate for Washoe County School District, District F, and I just wanted to make myself known to this great council. Thank you again. Thank you, sir.
Okay, next, the approval of the agenda. Anyone want to take anything out of order? Not looking for a motion. Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve.
Mr. Schmidt.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve the agenda as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Need a comment for Julia.
Well, we got a problem, obviously.
I was the only guy that wanted to vote yes.
Okay, seeing none, please vote. got you. Okay, please display it as only 4. Passed unanimously. Ms. Ratty was an aye. Thank you. Recommendations to approve minutes of March 24, 2014, budget workshop of February 25, 2014, and the meeting of February 10, 2014. Any omissions or deletions or corrections? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith? No? Mr. Lawson? Oh,
Move to approve.
Mr. Schmidt?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to approve the meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Ms. Ratty's an aye. Announcements, presentations. First, we have proclamation, National Fair Housing Month. Is there someone here to receive this? Come on down, sir. Have a seat. I'll read the proclamation, then you can say a few words. Whereas April 2014 marks the 46th anniversary of the Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, the Federal Fair Housing Act, which provides equal opportunity for all Americans in the sale, rental, and financing of housing and prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin. And whereas the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 added familial status and handicap to those classes protected by Title VIII and added the strong new rights remedy, monetary penalties, and judicial and administrative enforcement procedures. Whereas Nevada state law also prohibits discrimination on the basis of ancestry, sexual orientation, and gender identity or expression. And whereas it is solemn and sworn duty of the government at all levels to defend the rights of all citizens and oppose housing discrimination whenever and wherever it occurs. And whereas illegal barriers to equal opportunity in housing, no matter how subtle, that diminish the rights of some of our citizens, diminishes the rules of all. And whereas Silver State Housing Fair Council activity works to enhance equal housing opportunity for all people in Nevada to freely choose where they want to and can afford to live. And the City of Sparks supports the efforts of Silver State Fair Housing Council and all other agencies pursuing fair housing. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim April 2014 as Fair Housing Month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council for the opportunity to speak before you. My name is Roberto Ortiz, and I'm the Director of Programs for Silver State Fair Housing Council, a nonprofit agency with a mission to ensure equal housing opportunity for all residents of Nevada. Our agency has a long and productive relationship with the City of Sparks, providing fair housing awareness and advocacy for the Sparks residents and housing providers under the CDBG program. On behalf of the Board and Silver State Fair Housing staff, we thank you for the continuing efforts to affirmatively further fair housing in the City of Sparks. We believe that equal housing opportunities allow us to break us down barriers in the community and relate each other as neighbors and individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, next we have a proclamation for Nevada Hispanic Safety Month. Is there someone here to accept this? Come on down, please. I'll read it and then let you have a few words. Welcome. Whereas April 2014 has been designated Nevada Hispanic Safety Month by the Safety Consulation and Training Section of the Nevada Division of Industrial Relations. And whereas the safety and well-being of Nevada workforce is a priority of the state of Nevada, and educational safety training is important for all safe working environments. And Whereas with an increase in the Hispanic workforce in Nevada, bilingual safety training will be beneficial in further educating the culturally expanding citizenry of the Silver State. Whereas the alarming number of workplace injuries and illness to the Hispanic workforce calls for a greater emphasis on the importance of safe working procedures. And whereas promoting safety through constant diligence and attention to risks in the workplace, employers and employees must be instrumental in the efforts of providing a safe working environment. And whereas the state of Nevada commends all those involved in this effort to provide and encourage safe working environments for Nevada's workforce. And whereas a month-long effort to observe safety in the workplace that will express the need we all must have for appropriate safety procedures on the job in our state. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim April 2014 as Nevada Hispanic Safety Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martini and the Sparks City Council. On behalf of the Safety and Consultation Department for the state of Nevada, I'd like to thank you with regards to this proclamation. Our department is well-versed in Hispanic teaching and also consultation. That's one of our main goals, is to go out into the community and make sure that we teach our Hispanic employees. Therefore, we're actually reducing injuries. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it, your time. Okay, I have one that's not on the agenda, but I'm going to go ahead and read it anyway. Is there anyone here to accept the Public Safety Telecommunications Week proclamation? Oh, great. Come on, ladies. Whereas residents of Sparks dial 911 or the communications section for help in emergencies on a routine basis. And whereas the men and women who answer these calls gather vital information and dispatch public safety assistance, often making the difference between life and death. Whereas our emergency communications dispatchers are among the more than 500,000 telecommunications specialists who work daily to protect the public and promote public safety. And whereas our emergency communications dispatchers are the first contact for a person in crisis and are knowledgeable, highly trained employees who work closely with police, fire, and emergency medical personnel. And whereas Sparks residents enjoy a high standard of public safety and owe a great debt to the emergency communications personnel who apply their expertise in dispatching help to ensure public safety. Now, therefore, I, Gino R. Martini, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim April 14th through the 20th, 2014, as Public Safety Telecommunications Week, and join with the City Council in acknowledging and thanking our public safety dispatchers, David Brown, Stephanie Buck, Lisa Buckles, Shelley Burkhart, Mary Crandall, Maureen Diet, Mary Hale, Lori Howard, Linda McCoy, Melissa Nabong, Nancy Owens, Lisa Rose Brown, Angela Seekins, Sherry Terry, okay, I remember that one, and Denise Wagner. Thank you very much.
Teresa Wiley. I want to say thank you very much, Mayor and City Council members, for recognizing our dispatchers at the City of Sparks. They do a lot of work, and they play a crucial role behind the scenes, and many times they're the voice that only the person in stress hears. They don't go out in the street, and they try to make sure that our officers and our citizens are safe. So thank you for recognizing them.
And my name's Lori Howard, and I love working for the City of Sparks, and in appreciation for all the dispatchers, thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much. We love you working for the City of Sparks, too. It's a wonderful group over there, and it's very stressful, I know, and we thank you for what you do. Thanks a lot. Okay, 4.3, presentation and possible discussion of the Pyramid Highway 395 connector.
Makes more sense.
We got a couple of pretty good-looking heads here doing this today, huh?
Yes. Appreciate that. Mayor Martini, members of the council, for the record, I'm Doug Malloy, project manager for the RTC. With me here today is Brian Gant, representing our consultant, Jacobs Engineering. Happy to be here today. We've reached a milestone in this project and wanted to give you an update on that. We're going to be talking about preferred alternative today with this presentation. Just a little brief history. The purpose and need of this project is to relieve congestion on Pyramid from Queenway north to Calle de la Plata and to provide east-west connectivity between 395 and Pyramid. This is a federally funded project, and when we're talking about a project with federal funds and there's significant impacts to the human and physical environment, there's a need for an environmental impact statement, and that's what we've been undertaking since 2008, so 6 years putting this document together. We're doing this on behalf of NDOT. They own the Pyramid, of course, as well as the Federal Highway Administration, because it is a federally funded project. So a little more of the history. Way back in 1998, City of Sparks requested a corridor study be done on Pyramid, and for good reason, obviously with the congestion that's out there now and projected into the future. We completed that in around 2000. Recommended improvements were put into our long-range transportation plan, and then we got this EIS started on this project. We've screened out many alternatives, including turning Pyramid to a freeway all the way down to I-80, a freeway to McCarran, and turning McCarran into a freeway, Sparks Boulevard, Vista. We looked at all the possibilities of meeting the purpose and need of this project throughout the 6-year process. And we're now down to the preferred alternative, as I mentioned. Preparing the draft EIS, that was completed last fall, and then right now we're getting ready to start the final EIS. So I know this is difficult to see. It's on the board here, also on your screens. This is basically, we're talking about a 12-mile facility. This represents the alternative. There are options within this alternative, and I'll explain those. That's why you've got 3 lines in the southern portion of Pyramid, and then a couple more in Sun Valley. I'll talk about those here in a minute. These are, as I mentioned, freeway volumes. So we have an arterial out there currently, but we are talking about a grade-separated freeway with interchanges throughout the alignment at key locations, frontage roads connecting those, and then the connector is also a freeway. So ultimately, we will have free flow freeway all the way to 395. So zooming in on the 3, I'll call them options right now because it'll get confusing. The 3 options on Pyramid from Disk north to Sparks Boulevard would be on alignment, so using the existing corridor, turning that into a freeway with interchanges at Los Altos and Golden View, and then frontage roads in between. So we're talking about an 8-lane facility. We currently have 4. The next alternative to the left on your screen would be what we're calling the off alignment. That would be just behind Walmart on the hillside. It would Pyramid on alignment would still be provide the local access, but we would eliminate the need for all those lanes on Pyramid and the impacts that would result, and I'll talk about those a little bit here. And then the third alternative for Pyramid in this area would be on the ridge, if you will, nested between the peaks and valleys up there between Sun Valley and Spanish Springs. I mentioned the connector would have to cross through Sun Valley. This has been a big part of this study, is to mitigate how that would occur. We had 3 potential crossings. We were at the narrowest portion of Sun Valley near the southern end. We ended up with 2 options here, which actually with the interchange locations create 4. So the north crossing is following a power line corridor. It's fairly undeveloped, so a few less properties would need to be acquired there. And then the south crossing of Sun Valley would be about 500 feet north of El Rancho Dandini. And then there's choices, of course, as to where to put the connection to Sun Valley. So we could do an interchange at those locations on Sun Valley Boulevard. That would be signalized intersections, probably something very close to what we have at Pyramid and I-80, with ramps and signals. Or we've got some undeveloped land there west of Sun Valley. We could build an interchange there and create indirect access back to Sun Valley. The reason for that would be a lot less impacts and taking advantage of some open space. So north, south, at Sun Valley Boulevard, and west of Sun Valley Boulevard. And then lastly, this slide is showing the elements that are common to all of the alternatives. So as we looked at the alternatives, these will remain the same for all of them. So north of Sparks Boulevard, you have interchanges at Sparks Boulevard, Lazy 5, Dolores, La Posada, and then it transitions back from Freeway back down to Calle de la Plata. On the right, lower right here is there still needs to be, because there will be a demand to get to this facility, there's potential capacity improvements on Disc east to Vista, and then also on Pyramid south down to the intersection. As you know, we're looking at building the Pyramid McCarran intersection project. We'd be basically looking at widenings there. These are not freeways. This would be turning 4 lanes into 5 or 6 lanes, depending upon the traffic volumes that are projected. And then lastly, to the west of the screen is the interchange, the connection to 395. This would be ultimately would be a system interchange, free-flowing ramps to and from the north. So again, as I mentioned, you'd get on the freeway and you'd not stop as you continue on using that freeway facility. I mentioned that the draft document was completed last fall. We had public hearings both in Spanish Springs as well as in Sun Valley. They were well attended. We did receive comments. They were pretty consistent with the comments we'd received throughout the process, and that is very concerned about property acquisition and relocations, the traffic and congestion that exists on Pyramid today and looking into the future, and then some of the changes that would occur if we're building a freeway, obviously turning that into a freeway and then going through neighborhoods and the impacts there. The interesting thing about the comments received, there were no preferences on the preferred alternative. So those 12 choices that were available, we really didn't hear anything definitive from the comments on the selection of that. So we had to look at other reasons. So before I go into this slide, we had a lot of environmental impacts to take a look at. To name just a few, parks, historic resources, wetlands, floodplains, and on and on. Of all of those, there's really only 2 differentiators that would actually affect the decision on the preferred alternative, and that was environmental justice, which has to do with property acquisitions, and then visual, basically the impacts visually of the facility. So looking at relocations associated with Pyramid, so those 3 alignments that I showed you, of those, and we packaged, I thought we had that slide in here. So we packaged these 12 options, if you will, into 4 alternatives. We chose different pieces, like a menu, if you will, put them together, and that was for the purposes of making a document that was very understandable. And so there's 4 alternatives that are talked about here. The alternatives 2 and 4 included the on alignment, so there were significantly greater as you can imagine, significantly greater residential and commercial impacts. We would be taking properties along the Galleria. There's drainage facilities that would need to be acquired. The two other alignments, and for the good reason, were alternatives 1 and 3, didn't have those particular impacts, so they have the same number of impacts, but obviously significantly less. Quickly looking at Sun Valley, I mentioned the north and south crossing. The takeaway from this slide is that the north crossing had 2 to 3 times more relocations associated with it, and so the alternatives that include that would be ones to be of concern. So as we went through and tried to come up with a way to screen out alternatives, to come up with our preferred alternative, as I mentioned, we've got 12. So you've got the 3 choices along Pyramid, and then the 4 choices, if you will, at Sun Valley, making up the 12. So the first step was to screen out the on alignment. Again, just a lot of impacts, both to residential properties, the trailer parks that are along there, as well as all the commercial properties that are really relatively new, and really significant impact, not only with having to acquire them, but during construction. And so that took away the on alignment. The second step, the north crossing had some more, again, more impacts, as I mentioned, 2 to 3 times more with the north crossing, so we screened it out. So the red here is representing those that are going away, if you will, as I go through the steps. The third step was the interchange at Sun Valley Boulevard. So the red there on the screen on the lower crossing through Sun Valley is that interchange being screened out. Not only was there a few more relocations associated with it, this project is a project with a significant amount of earthwork. As you can imagine, there is open space. We're taking advantage of that. However, it's a very difficult terrain in which to build a freeway, if you will. So much so that we're talking about, typically you want to balance the amount of excavation versus placement of that material. That's the ideal project, if you will, from a cost perspective. This project would not come close to that. We're looking at about 3 to 6 million cubic yards of material excess that we'd have to get rid of. So anywhere there's an opportunity to reduce that kind of factored in a little bit, if you will. And so in this case, with the south interchange at Sun Valley Boulevard, that had an additional 500,000 of excess material, 500,000 cubic yards of excess material we'd have to deal with and get rid of. So we screened that one out. Step 4 was the basically looking at the off alignment versus the ridge alignment. And again, visual, this is where visual came into play. If you can picture the 580 south towards Carson City, it's the same, would be the same type of facility, be pretty much hanging on the side of the hill with a lot of scarring associated with it, a lot of visual impacts to certainly the Spanish Springs area. So for that reason, plus and also another excess of 1 million cubic yards of material, we were able to screen out the off alignment, left with the ridge alignment. So that represented in the document alternative 3 for your reference. And as I mentioned, though, any one of these 12 choices were available to be selected in that preferred, as far as in the document itself. So looking ahead, all that's been funded so far with this project is this study. It's identified in our long-range transportation plan. Most of it is included in there. Some of it is outside of that. So funding to go forward with design and eventually acquisition of property and construction is not in place. But we are filing up the document, and we're looking for a record of decision from the Federal Highway Administration in 2015. That could be on a phase of the project, or it could be the entire project. That's yet to be determined, and it's going to depend upon funding. After the record of decision and funding availability, would be starting to look at design, get the design to a certain point, and then start looking at property acquisitions in 2017 at the earliest. And then the earliest we'd see construction on a phase, or this entire project, would be in the 2018-2020 timeframe. And then ultimate build-out goes all the way out to about 2030. And that would be basically going from the interchange, so downstream, upstream, basically from the interchange all the way out to eventually to Calle de la Plata as far as the need goes. So we'd build most likely the connector first. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, Brian's here to help assist
Questions
with
for
that.
Doug or Brian? Mr. Lawson?
So have we come up with a budgeted cost for this yet?
Yeah, we're at about $1.2 billion today's dollars.
And what was the 580 bypass? How much was that one?
I think the 580 ended up under $500 million, about $400 million.
Yeah, it's a pretty expensive project.
It'd be the largest project in Nevada
a lot more
to date,
acquisitions.
without a doubt.
Okay. I think you guys came to the right decision, though, not to disrupt any more Sparks residents. With going through Pyramid and McCarran right now,
any residents.
it's pretty difficult right there. If we had to come right back and displace more homeowners.
Right, and with mentioning Pyramid McCarran, I just thought I'd throw in there that this facility is needed in addition to the intersection. So with the potential growth in the Spanish Springs areas and north, it's still showing these kinds of demands. So the intersection is obviously key. To keep that from being any larger than it already was as far as traffic, size, we still need this facility, so.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, are you still there? Any questions?
Yeah, I'm here.
Any questions?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Let's move on to consent items. Anybody want to pull a consent item 5.1 through 5.6? Okay, if not, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
Move to approve consent items 5.1 through 5.6.
Do I have a second? Mr. Schmidt.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve consent items 5.1 through 5.6. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. That was an aye, Julia? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to 6.1. Consideration and possible approval of resolution number 3254, a resolution to designate interest income allocated to various special revenue funds as committed resources to be used for specified purposes of such funds.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Debbie Kinder from the Finance Department. I like to write long titles. The GASB changed their requirements for special revenue reporting, and you have to commit a significant portion of the revenue in order to be qualified as a special revenue fund, and we have one special revenue fund, the stabilization fund, that doesn't meet those requirements right now because the only revenue in that fund is interest income. And it's been the practice of the city that interest income is used for the purpose of the fund, but now it needs council action to commit that purpose. So this resolution will do that.
Questions, Mr. Schmidt?
It's across the board that our policy is that if interest is generated in that fund, it stays in that fund, right? So we're not changing anything, we just have to have the policy to make sure this one fund is covered.
Exactly. I did word it as special revenue in case it happens to any other special revenue fund.
Okay, but I mean, if the general fund gets revenue, it stays in the general
Stays
fund.
in.
If tourism marketing gets interest, it stays in tourism marketing.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Schmidt?
Motion approved, as outlined by staff.
Mr. Smith?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve 6.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously with Ms. Ratty as an aye. Thank you. 6.2, consideration and possible approval of funding allocations recommended by the Tourism and Marketing Committee for 2014 special events. Mr. Mayberry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Manager Driscoll. I'm Adam Mayberry, Community Relations Manager for the record. Item 6.2 is your annual approval of the funding allocations by the city's Tourism and Marketing Committee, consisting of Chairman and Councilman Ron Schmidt, Councilman Ron Smith, and David Zamarian, who's one of the vice presidents of the Nugget, newly appointed to the Tourism and Marketing Committee. I think the item is fairly straightforward. A total of $230,000 have been allocated over 8 events, as well as the city's Parks and Rec department and the city's brand leadership team, who's implementing the city's branding campaign. I'll heed Councilman Schmidt if he has any follow-up.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayberry and Mr. Mayor. It was great events this year that we've lined on up, and I want to thank Mr. Smith and David from the Nugget for the commitment. This year we had to have, I believe, 4 meetings to go ahead and get through the process, and those meetings were almost 3 hours apiece because of all the different events and the presentations and the work that staff has done, Tracy and Francine. We are now looking out 10 years in advance, cash flow, where we're going to be at 10 years from now. We are working on policies to take and start bringing some of the events, the legacy events back down in percentages of what they receive over the next 5 years to be able to get a balanced budget. We are exceeding more money than our income this year with $230,000 going out. The most we can get back is $200,000. But we see that changing in the next couple of years through some of these policies things that will help do it. And so thank you to everybody, and Tracy and your staff, thank you for all that you've done, and Mr. Mayberry for the brand leadership team. We bring this to you as a courtesy item to make sure everybody's aware of who's getting funding throughout the community. Thank you.
Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, just a clarification. The Sparks Park and Recreation Department, is that discretionary funds for them to attract new events?
This is a fund that was set up last year. Last year we set up $10,000, but it's a fund for Sparks that as events are coming in, if there's unforeseen things that are going to go on with that event that's going to have cost to the Parks and Recs that can't be covered by the fund, they don't have to come back to the tourism marketing, and they're allowed to use it to cover those things. There's not a hiccup here. It's just last year we did it, and they returned some of the money back that they had. They justify all their cost of what they have with it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I attended most of the meetings. It was a good process, really. Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Smith and Mr. Zamarian did a really incredible job weeding out the different events and things, and we got some good stuff coming, and I think we're going to build on what we've already got. So it was a good process, believe me. I really enjoyed being involved and just sitting back as an observer. So, any other questions? Looking for a motion. Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, before I make the motion, I'd like to say that Sparks is spending more on special events than the RCVA it does, so I just thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I'll make a motion to approve the funding allocation as listed.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Kerrigan, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve 6.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Ms. Ratty is an aye. Okay. 6.3, discussion and possible approval of the 2014 dues for the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities in the amount of $19,967.96. Mr. Mayberry and Wes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Again, Adam Mayberry for the record. Item 6.3 is an item to approve the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities dues effective July 1. An amount of $19,967.96. Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities has really proven over the last year to be a real valuable resource for us and have advocated on behalf of the city and as well as other cities on a variety of legislative issues. Additionally, Mayor Martini serves on the executive board of the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. Councilman Ron Schmitz, a former president of the organization as well. Wes Henderson is the executive director of the organization, and he's with us. If he could be recognized, I believe he has a few remarks.
Go ahead, Wes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, I am Wes Henderson of the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. I'd like to thank you for your membership and participation in the league. And Mr. Mayor, you especially for your participation in the executive board and also as serving as vice chair of the Council of Mayors. And we certainly appreciate all your hard work. And I think we're moving the league in a positive direction, and we are hopefully providing more benefits to you for your membership dues. I'd also like to thank you for hosting the next quarterly meeting of our board of directors at the end of May. It will be up here. I'd like to invite all members of the City Council to attend if possible, and we will feed you lunch afterwards. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Driscoll on his promotion to city manager, and also the council. I think you guys made a very wise decision, and Mr. Driscoll will serve you well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions for Wes or Adam? Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wes, I was attending an event at lunch down in Carson City. I got hit with a question that I wasn't prepared to answer. You jumping ship here in a couple of weeks?
I have no plans on jumping ship.
Okay, that's the correct answer. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, for me, I think the last year has proven Wes has been in charge fully for the year, and it's been a much better process, much better for City of Sparks, and much better for the municipalities and cities of Nevada, and I appreciate you being on board, Wes.
I appreciate your kind words.
Okay, any other questions? Looking for a motion. Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 6.3 as outlined by staff, approving $19,967.96 for dues for the Nevada League of Cities.
Mr. Smith?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve 6.3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Aye. Ms. Ratty is an aye. It passes unanimously. Thanks, Wes. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, we go on to 6.4, consideration and possible award of the 2014 Street Rehabilitation Unit 2 bid number 1314-016, PWP-WA-2014-102 to Spanish Springs Construction in the amount of $481,444. Mr. Erickson, speed up.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. John Erickson, the Transportation Manager for Community Services. The project scope identifies the need to rehabilitate the pavement surface by means of pulverizing the existing asphalt and base material, going in, regrading and compacting that material, and then placing a new pavement surface along 9th Street and 10th Street. And I apologize if you can't see this very well, but the cursor is on Prater Way, and then down here is C Street. And so on 9th Street, we're going from the BC Alley all the way to Prater Way. And then on 10th Street, we're going from C Street all the way to Prater. We will be removing sections of rundown curb and gutter and driveway aprons. And then we will be installing new pedestrian ramps throughout the project limits. We received 5 qualified bids on the project. Spanish Springs Construction provided us a favorable low bid of $481,444. The estimated construction cost was $550,000, so we have a substantial savings there. It's important to note that the Truckee Meadows Water Authority, or TUMWA, will be replacing the water mains and services throughout the project limits. Spanish Springs Construction was the low bidder on that work for TUMWA, so it's going to help with our scheduling to do the water line and the roadway work with one contractor. Spanish Springs is anticipating starting the water line relocation in end of April, and they will be done with the roadway project the second week in June. Staff is recommending approval of this item. That concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Erickson? Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So far this year, we're going to have close to $1 million in that area in street improvements.
This project was identified 2 years ago. The pavement condition index on 9th Street was the lowest value that we had. It was set at a 19. And then 10th Street is at a 28. We coordinated the projects with the utility companies, and this project was approved through the council with the CIP process.
I'm just pointing out that a lot of our road money this year is going to this 6 or 7 block area for the entire city.
Yeah, and that it's because it's the older part of town, and those pavements are just they're starting to reach their useful life.
And I'm just going to make another comment because it resurfaced itself a few weeks ago that I really think staff needs to sit down and rediscuss this whole sidewalk issue with a long-term plan, because there's 2 different directions I see going on things, and we're going to spend $500,000 on a project, and I'm still uncomfortable with that the city's all going in the same direction when it comes to sidewalks in this community in that area. And I think there's a lot of wasted land going on. There's wasted tax revenues. There's land that can be turned over to to the citizens for, collect taxes on. So, I would recommend before another street project done in this area that there's comprehensive staff meetings to make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music for this thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion. Mr. Schmidt.
I move to award 2014 Street Rehabilitation Unit Number 2 project to Spanish Springs Construction in the amount of $481,444.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve agenda item 6.4. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Go ahead.
I apologize to Julia. That was her award, and I shouldn't have made that motion, but I apologize to her.
She'll get over it. Right, Julia, you'll get over it, won't you, Julia? Okay.
She doesn't even know what happened, so.
All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thanks, John. Okay, moving on to 6.5, consideration and possible approval to award ERS Industrial Services, Inc., a contract in the amount of $291,397.67 to provide materials and maintenance services to the tertiary sand filtration process at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. For the record, my name is Todd Saxberg, Operations Manager, Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. Today I bring before you approval to award ERS Industrial Services a contract to provide materials and maintenance services to the tertiary sand filtration process at Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. This is in support of bid 1314-020. Can I turn this on, please? Do I need to push the... This is a line drawing of Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. The admin building, for anyone who's been out there, is right here. The area in red are the 12 filter cells that we're going to resupply the sand and perform maintenance on. They're 720 square feet each. I have an example of what we're going to put into them, sand and anthracite. Would anyone in the dais want to see this? No? Oh, no, it's brand new.
Is that brand new?
No. Anyway, basically, each of these 12 filter cells are filled with anthracite and sand, and we force the wastewater down through it after all the nutrients are gone, and it provides the final cleaning step before disinfection.
How big is the actual filter?
720 square feet.
Oh, okay, you said that, thank you.
Are there any questions?
Questions for Todd? Go ahead. Mr. Smith.
How often is this changed, or the filter will be done?
I've been in this job for 3 years, and this is the first time we've done it. I think it needs to be changed a lot more. Previous management had let this go quite a while. I think I've built 2 workbooks, and we're going to check this on a PM basis every quarter. And we'll fill it, and I've got a whole worksheet that's been provided for me for the electronic operations manual. It allows us to type in what the level is, and it tells us how many bags of each material we need.
Do you do all the filters at once?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, we do.
Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, I was wondering if Mr. Marin could explain this bid results for me. I'm kind of confused.
I said Mr. Mayor.
Marin.
I can't explain anything.
I know you can't.
Don't be
I'm
asking.
hoping Dan can.
Don't be asking me any questions.
I'll try. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we have the base bid, and then we have alternates 1 and 2, and it seems like they're all over the place. You know, the base bid is low, and then the other 2 bids are high.
In the case of this particular project, the base bid represents just that, the primary work that needs to get done, and that's the amount that you're awarding today. The alternates in this case were additional work that the plant was considering and were budget available. Those will be additive numbers to the base bid. So when we advertise bids to general contractors, we declare ahead of time that the evaluation or the ranking of bids will be done in a particular manner. In this case, we indicated we're most interested in getting the base bid done, and that's where the ranking takes place. The other amounts that you see in your staff report are, again, additive amounts. Those aren't grand totals by any means. Those are things that we would add were budget available.
Okay, so are we going to award alternate 1 or 2? Do we know?
No, sir. Your staff report indicates just the amount for the $291,397.
Okay, good enough for me. Thank you.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Did Reno already approve this?
Reno has not approved this.
Okay, so we're first in.
This is just a reimbursement.
What's that?
Just a reimbursement to Reno.
Okay, so they've already approved it? Because, I mean, it's a 60, or 68-30, whatever the heck the thing is, 67-32 split.
Mr. Kerrigan, Michael Dirk, Water Treatment Plant Manager. This is an operational expense, so it will not go to the Reno City Council. The cost will be shared per the flow split, as all costs at the plant are shared.
Oh, okay.
Only capital projects go through both councils.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
Move to approve council award bid number 13-14020 for maintenance services to ERS Industrial Services Incorporated.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Lawson to approve agenda item 6.5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously with an aye from Ms. Ratty. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Moving on to 6.6 is a first reading.
Bill number 2669, a general ordinance rezoning real property owned by Rising Tides LLC from 237.82 acres of A40 and 31.3 acres of A5 agriculture to NUD, New Urban District, for 7 parcels totaling approximately 269.12 acres in size, located east of Pyramid Way and north of Kylie Ranch Parkway, Sparks, Nevada, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
This is a first reading for Bill number 2669. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the regular City Council meeting on Monday, April 28, 2014. Agenda item 6.7 is a first reading.
Bill number 2670, an ordinance amending Chapter 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code to add Chapter 20.12 to establish an administrative review, including the process, application requirements, findings, and providing other matters properly related thereto.
This is the first reading for Bill number 2670. The public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the regular City Council meeting on Monday, April 28, 2014. 6.8 is a first reading.
Bill number 2671, an ordinance amending Title 20 of the Sparks Municipal Code to provide zoning authorization, Section 20.41.075, for the establishment of medical marijuana cultivation facilities, independent testing laboratories, and facilities for the production of edible marijuana products or marijuana-infused products, and providing other matters properly related thereto.
This is the first reading for Bill number 2671. Public hearing and second reading of this bill will be conducted at the regular City Council meeting on Monday, April 28, 2014. Okay, let's move on to 6.9. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of fiscal year 2014-2015 budget recommendations and fiscal items, including 1, the city manager's budget, the city manager's recommendations for the City of Sparks' final budget, city's property tax rate, the proposed 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Driscoll and Mr. Cronk.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Jeff Cronk, Financial Services Director, for the record. We are here today to present the city manager's final budget recommendations for next fiscal year 2015. Today we're asking council to provide the direction to either accept the tentative budget as been built, which is a culmination of a lot of workshops and meetings leading up to this point. And the attachment that you had in your to the agenda today is actually the tentative budget, which we filed last week. And that's, again, like I said, the accumulation of all the actions that we've taken to date. Looking forward real quick, what we're planning to do is, based on feedback today, that's what we're seeking is direction to build that final budget. Based on that feedback today, we're going to come back and have a public hearing on the tentative budget, which we just filed last week, on the third Tuesday in May, which is required by law. This year, that's May 20th. That's going to be a Tuesday at 9 o'clock. And we're going to hold that public hearing on the tentative budget. Immediately following that, we're going to bring back to you the final budget that we're going to build based on the direction we hear today. So at that time, we're going to ask for a ratification of the final budget, and we'll actually have the document for you to sign at that time. So by law, we're required to file a final budget by June 1st. There is some stipulation we can extend that budget deadline by 30 days during legislative sessions, but we don't have one this year. So attached to your agenda is both a staff report and a very thick city manager's budget recommendation book, but I thought it would be more beneficial and maybe a little bit more efficient to keep my comments and my presentation to what I wrote in the staff report. That's I wrote that with the purpose of being an overview of everything that's in that book, and then actually then let you guide me if there's anything specific that you wanted to talk about, and let you drive that time, so to speak. We can certainly cover anything that's in that city manager book, but I didn't want to go through all of that. That would probably take a really, really long time. And as much as I would love to hear about all of it, we could probably be more efficient with that. So I thought I would just keep my comments to what I've written in the staff report, and then we can go from there based on your direction. Okay, fair enough? All right. So today, the city manager is seeking three items specifically. One, the approval of the city manager's final budget recommendations, again, with any changes or alterations you might have to that. The second item that we're going to be specifically asking for is approval of the city's property tax rate to be included into the final budget. It won't be actually approved today. It's not approved until that budget is signed. So what we're asking for approval is to include that into the final budget. And then the third item is the attached 5-year capital improvements plan, which you've already received a presentation on at the February 25th budget workshop. So like I said before in my initial comments, is that the information that we're providing you today is a culmination of all the budget workshops and meetings that we have had up to this point. Most of that was presented to you at the February 25th workshop. Specifically, council voted to accept 3 things at that workshop, if I can, just to refresh your memory, including the city manager's final budget recommendations that were presented there. There haven't been any changes to the things such as new needs, reclassifications, department budget reductions that we presented on the 25th. That's all included in here with no modification. The other thing, like we had talked about, you had voted to increase the property tax rate by 4.37 pennies, which would take our property tax rate to the cap that's allowed by statutory law. And then the third item that was specifically voted on was to increase the garbage franchise fees from 5% to 8%. So with that, I wanted to give you a brief overview, again, of what we see in this document regarding our fiscal policies. And the primary difference is going to be in policy number 1, which was the general fund ending balance. And if you recall, at our 25th workshop, you had given us authority to lower the ending fund balance no lower than 5.5%, but since we didn't know the value of the revenue increases that would have been generated from the property tax rate increase and the other garbage franchise fee at the time, we basically said take it no lower than 5.5% of an ending fund balance and kind of float up from there. I think that was the actual words. So as it stands right now, after we built everything into the budget, the city manager's recommendations include a 6.4% balance. So that's where it floated up to, if I can use that. Okay? Okay. The policy number 2. Good? Okay. Policy number 2, maintaining a general fund contingency budget. No change there. We're including a $1 million budget with an offsetting transfer in from the vehicle fund. No change there. Policy number 3, transfer resources from the general fund to the capital projects fund to help pay for identified capital improvements needs. And again, this also has no change. The total there would be $902,000, which is a little bit less than the 1.3 that we had in the last few years. That breaks down to $662,000 for technology based on the WIG that we had discussed at the 25th workshop, and then $240,000 for other capital needs. Policy 4 is consideration of committing business license revenue to the stabilization fund on an annual basis. Right now, that stabilization fund has a balance of about $229,000 in there, and no commitment of revenue has been placed in there for fiscal 15 based on your direction. Policy 5, reduce personnel costs to 78% of total general revenue. After everything is folded in to the recommendations, that comes out to 80.5% of total revenues in the city manager's recommendations. And finally, Policy 6 was to consider the funding of the city's other post-employment benefit, or OPEB liability, using either an irrevocable trust fund, as we have discussed, or maintaining pay-as-you-go. And the city manager policies, again, based on your direction, was to maintain the current status as pay-as-you-go for that liability. Other items that, if I can just call out some of the highlights relating to the general fund and some of the other funds, again, that you would find in the budget book, the city manager's recommendation budget book. Fiscal 15 general fund revenues, total revenues would be increasing 3.2%. They would be only increasing 2.0% without the property tax increase or the franchise fee increase. The breakdown of that is property taxes would be increasing 4.4%. Seed taxes we're expecting to increase 3%, and license permit revenue increasing about 4.6%. The expenditures, we're expecting to increase 4.7%. The biggest chunk of the pie there, obviously, is the 25% premium increase, the contributions increase into the health insurance fund, and that's going to increase the cost to the general fund by about $1 million. And that's the main driver of expenditures there. Transfers for the if you recall, the subsidy that occurred for the Development Services Fund during the recession, approximately $1.1 million. That's included to be paid back in full by next fiscal year. Recall, we've already started paying that back. Fiscal 13, we paid back $60,000 of it. Fiscal 14, $352,000 of it, leaving a balance of $704,000, and that's going to be the balance of it will be taken care of next year. We talked about the motor vehicle transfers out to the Parks and Rec Fund is a subsidy of their total costs of about 22.6%, a little over $700,000. And then the other was the transfer out that we normally have to our debt service fund to pay the debt service needs of the city of about $730,000. We removed that in the next fiscal year, as we did for this current fiscal year, and with the plan to pay that debt service with existing bond proceeds that were unspent. Just as a FYI, kind of a heads up going forward, starting in fiscal 16, that's going to have to be reinstated. So. Ending fund balance then, after everything's considered, will be a reduction of $766,000. And regarding subsidy into the redevelopment agencies, there is subsidy in redevelopment agency 2 that we've experienced in fiscal 13 of $250,000, and again in 14 that we're expecting about $786,000, but that subsidy is taken away, just as we discussed at our last workshop, in fiscal 15, pending the outcome of the land sale and, of course, assessments of property values. No subsidy is expected in redevelopment area 1, at least for fiscal 15. That might change in fiscal 16 or 17, kind of depending on how the property valuations come into play, but it's getting close. And then again, just I wanted to highlight some other things in our other funds, specifically relating to our liabilities. OPEB liability is currently on the books as of last fiscal year, which was the latest valuation, $6 million, and that's expected to grow about $500,000 annually. and workers' compensation liability, which is primarily related to the heart, lung, and cancer benefits for our public safety employees, currently stands about $6.7 million as of, again, the latest valuation, June 2013. And we currently have a negative fund balance in that fund of $750,000 at the end of 2013. And that is expected to grow as we continue. However, that's related to long-term liabilities. We do have enough assets in the fund right now that's believed to carry us through over the next several fiscal years, but we do need some long-term solutions. And like I said, the budget book, this is we're kind of tweaking that book as we go every year. I encourage you to pull it, every now and again. There's some wonderful information. In fact, I'd be remiss if I didn't give some kudos to our outstanding budget team, Stacy Hemmerling and Trish Sebastian and Jennifer Parmenter. They did some fabulous work pulling this information together. We're using this book as again, a reference tool more and more. It's something I'm referencing even as much as the CAFR sometimes. So anyway, when you have time or if you ever need some information, there's some fabulous information. So I didn't want to go through that today unless there were some specific things that you wanted to bring out, but I did want to highlight that as a option and to go forward. I also, in the staff report, prepared quite a bit of information for the, please. Yes.
How much is our OPEB grown from year over year?
It's been growing about $500,000 under our current actuarial valuation method. That was changed a few years ago. Since then, and that's been steady, it's about $500,000 a year.
And so that's $500,000 we have to take out of the general fund each year?
No, that's actually just a debt that's on the books. We don't have to fund it. That's one of those lovely things that GASB came up with us, 43, 44, 45, all that nonsense when they were looking at all the liabilities of that and saying, put it on your books. You don't have to fund it, but you've got to put it on your books. So right now we're not funding it other than a pay-as-you-go. And when it's a pay-as-you-go, it's coming from the general fund. It's coming from all the other funds that contribute into there as bills come due. But the actual specific liability won't be paid down unless you put it into a trust fund.
Okay, so and our current debt is what, $6 million, you said?
Correct, citywide.
And City of Reno's is?
A lot more. I actually don't know what their OPEB is.
That I read it was $205 million
huge.
Last week. So we're doing all right, but that $6 million still scares me for the future. It's going to start exponentially growing.
That's the expectation.
Thank you.
Okay. Also in the staff report, I prepared a lot of information on the city's property tax rate, both current and then also the potential impact. I'll save that for questions. Kind of laid that out pretty straightforward in there. And then we also, the last attachment was the CIP, and that's actually attached as an appendix to the book. With that concludes my presentation part. To reiterate, what we're seeking from council today is specific action on 3 items, seeking approval to either take the city manager's recommendations, again, which is the book that's in front of you, essentially that's the tentative budget, either as it stands or with modifications. That would be the first thing we're looking for. The second thing we're looking for, obviously, is to seek approval to include the property tax rate into the final budget. And then the third item would be to approve the 5-year capital improvements plan. And with that, I'm ready to take questions.
Questions, Mr. Kerrigan?
Thank you. New needs. There wasn't anything on there for new needs.
New needs were the same that we presented in the February 25th.
Okay.
So it ended up being, there's no change in that. So it was essentially 2 positions in the general fund, 4 positions in other funds.
Okay. So that, nothing new on that?
Nothing new on anything that we presented at February 25th regarding new needs, position reclassifications, department reductions, all that remained the same.
Yeah, and when I talked about the, voting for the 4 cents increase, I said that I promised the people that I represent to try to put it towards public safety. And after our meeting in February, I think the fire chief and police chief said that another dispatcher, I think there's just give me a thumbs up if I'm right. There's one vacant?
We're fully staffed as of last Monday.
Okay, so that's off the table then? Okay.
Our original request was for 2 additional positions based on the study that those were not included in the budget.
So you want to, so you would like to see one other dispatcher, or more than one? So I just want to throw that out there. I'd like to try to see if we could do that for public safety. That's just my own druthers. And then I'd like to ask a question about our interlocal agreements on page 60 out of the handbook. It says general fund interlocal agreements with other government agencies. I don't remember the Nevada Commission on Ethics interlocal agreement. Can you refresh my memory on that? Because I really don't feel like paying that organization $17,318 on the way they handle business. But yeah, personal, but anyway, what interlocal agreement? I don't remember that one, so can you refresh my memory? Is that one that the legislature said you're going to pay it? I think that's what it is.
I'm going to go ahead and
Steve?
defer to Mr. Driscoll.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Steve Driscoll, City Manager for the record. Mr. Kerrigan, that was a bill through the legislature. I believe it was 2 sessions ago that it was originally discussed, and there's an assessment methodology, and so they calculate that every year, and they send us a bill.
Okay. And I just want to point out that the legislature does not fall underneath the Ethics Commission. So as far as I'm concerned, it's an unfunded mandate, but that's okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff, just want to kind of get some ballpark round numbers. You say the total expense increase for the year is 4.7%. That's including all new needs, raises, costs, 25%, insurance. That's a 4.7% increase.
Correct.
You also show with the tax increase, the trash franchise, you're raising revenues 6%.
No, total revenue would be 3.2% for the general fund.
Okay, I'm going to go back to it. I don't have it with me, but there was an email sent out 2 weeks ago in regards to categories, groups all together, and it showed a 6% increase in revenue to the city.
Don't recall that, but what we have in the city manager's recommendations, I could tell you, is a 3.2% for total revenues.
Okay, if you can then get that email back, and let's see what because I can't find it on my list here, because it shows that general fund was getting a 6% increase because of the 2 tax increases.
Can you help me out, pinpoint maybe what that email was? I don't recall
one that was
that.
just using squares. It had 6 squares, I believe. It had 3 categories for increase and 3 for up and down arrows, that we got X amount of dollars in property tax, we got X amount of dollars in sales, and we got, I think it was 58% in business license fees going on up. Fines and forfeitures were 58% increase in those numbers. There were some huge number increases on that for revenues.
I don't recall that. The only 6% that I can think of that maybe you're referring to would be the C-tax, and that's the current year. Yeah. The current year C-tax is we're projecting for a 6% increase, but that's C-tax only, not total general fund. To date, we're at about 6.5%. I'm sorry, I don't recall that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm just, I'm going to oppose the recommendation based upon it. I believe both of these tax increases are unwarranted at this time.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out at a sidebar up here, the mayor just nudged me and said that probably the money to the Ethics Commission would be less from the city if it wasn't for me, so I thought I'd put that on the record.
Assessment would have been much less. Anyone else? Mr. Lawson.
I would definitely, Steve, like to see more money go into IT in the future. We have to modernize as a city, and right now we're putting a Band-Aid on it by buying new equipment. We need to look at some different programs that make us more efficient and relying on technology to take the place of bodies. So that's just my recommendation for the future, that we make that a little bit stronger.
Mr. Mayor, Steve Driscoll for the record, and thank you, Mr. Lawson. In the budget recommendations from the manager is the investment and licensing fees for the Acela project that'll come in during the next year, which will modernize the building permits inspection process and business license process for the city. That'll be the first major change. It touches almost every department and various things, and it does get us to where we're doing things online with our customers and also with our inspectors, for instance. They're walking out in the field with either their smartphone or their iPad, and they're doing their inspections, so quite a jump forward in technology, as you suggest. So we are taking that as a major platform change for us. It's very large. And in addition to that, the second phase of the WIG on IT is reviewing the software systems for modernizing those in a similar fashion, to where if there's an upgrade available to where we can do more things online, to where that our staff is utilizing technology instead of manual processing, that'll be there. So those two are in process, and your approval of the recommendations today takes the first big step on the biggest platform that we have in the city.
And I'm aware of Acela. I'm thinking further down the road here, other things, other ways to do it. And I can't even tell you what those are yet, because they're going to come out.
Exactly.
But let's have the money set aside so we can take advantage of that.
As soon as we review the inventory that we currently have in the systems and the versions that we have and what options are there, the second part of that phase would be to develop a budget and bring that back to you again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to recommendations, the city manager's recommendations. Somebody want to make a motion?
You going to take these one at a time, Mr.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lawson.
All right, recommendation, motion number one, I move to approve the city manager's final budget recommendations for fiscal year 2014-15.
Do you have a second, Mr. Kerrigan?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson. Before I say anything, Ms. Ratty, you have anything you want to add or anything, Julia? Julia?
Woke her up.
Put down the margarita.
Okay, we have a motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Ratty.
Yeah, if you could just, I can really hear Steve and Jeff well, so someone else could just take the motion for me, that'd be great.
The motion by Mr. Lawson was to approve the city manager's budget recommendations for the fiscal year 2014-15 as presented by staff.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Mr. Kerrigan. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Ms. Ratty was an aye.
Okay, with Ms. Ratty's aye, passes 4-1. Okay, thank you. On the recommendation number 2, on the property tax, do we have a motion? Mr. Kerrigan?
Yeah, Julia, Mike, do you want to make that motion on recommendation number 2, which is the tax increase?
Mr. Kerrigan was asking if you wanted to make the motion on the property tax increase.
Yeah, I would like to. So I move to approve the property tax rate increase of 4.37 cents from 2.6163 to the statutory limit of 2.66 for 100 of the tax rate included in the final budget for fiscal year 2014-15.
Do we have a second? Mr. Kerrigan?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Ratty, seconded by Mr. Kerrigan on recommendation number 2 to increase the property tax by 4.37 cents. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Ms. Ratty is an aye.
Okay. Ms. Ratty is an aye. So we have 3-2. Mr. Smith and Mr. Schmidt are no. Okay. So passes 3-2. Ratty, Lawson, Kerrigan, yes. Smith and Schmidt, no. Okay. Recommendation number 3 to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan. Do we have a motion? Mr. Kerrigan.
Yeah, I move to approve the proposed five-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2014, 2015 through 2018.
Good.
Yeah, through fiscal year 2018, 2019.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Kerrigan, seconded by Councilman Lawson to approve the capital improvement plan. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Reddy is an aye.
Okay, passes 4 to 1. Mr. Smith is a no. Okay. What's next there, gentlemen? Is that it?
That's it for today. I'll just quickly remind you then, what we'll do is we'll prepare the final budget, bring it back on the 20th. Excuse me. We'll have the public hearing on the tentative budget, which is, again, essentially what we saw today. Have that public hearing, then we'll immediately bring back the final budget, which will include essentially what you're seeing today, no changes.
Okay. Thanks. Good work. Thanks. Good work, Finance Department. Good job.
Mayor Martini?
Yes.
If I could ask Councilman Ratty, I believe you read the motion from the staff report, is that correct? We couldn't hear you very well, and I want to make sure it's right. So it was the one that was recommended by staff on item 2. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to public hearing. Public hearing, second reading and possible approval of Bill Number 2668, Ordinance Number 2487, providing for the conducting and holding of the 2014 municipal elections. Is that you, Teresa? Go ahead.
That is me, and this is the ordinance to allow the city to have the Washoe County Treasurer, the Registrar of Voters conduct our election for us.
Questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing to the audience. Anyone want to speak on this particular agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Questions? If not, looking for a motion. Mr. Smith.
I move to approve Bill Number 2668, Ordinance Number 2487, providing the conducting and holding of the 2014 municipal elections.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve agenda item 7.1, ordinance number 2487, providing for conducting and holding elections. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
No.
Passes unanimously. Planning and zoning, PCN 14004, consideration and possible approval of a tentative map, Upper Highlands at Cimarron East Phase 4. Request for a 41-lot single-family residential subdivision on a site approximately 117 acres in the size in the new urban district zoning district, generally located south of the intersection of Orange Plains Drive and Desert Fox Drive, Sparks, Nevada. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Tim Thompson, Senior Planner for the record. Before you today is the review of an expired tentative map for the Upper Highlands at Cimarron East. This out here is Eagle Canyon and La Posada. And you can see that the subdivision there is down at the end of La Posada. And so that's Phase 4, the 41 lots. The tentative map was originally approved by the council back in 2004. Subsequently, 3 final maps were recorded. The final map for Phase 3 included improvement plans for Phase 4. However, no final map was ever recorded for Phase 4. The tentative map has since expired, and so the developers coming back and looking to get a new tentative map for the remaining phase of this particular subdivision. Staff did not identify any issues or concerns. In fact, we simply used the same conditions that exist in the previous tentative map. The thinking is that it was good then and it's good now, and the developer would be complying with the same conditions in Phase 4 as they were complying with in Phase 3. And staff is recommending approval, as did the Sparks Planning Commission, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tim? Okay, anyone from the developer here? Lisa, you want to say? Melissa, I'm sorry, Melissa?
Good afternoon, Melissa Lindell with Wood Rogers, representing Tim Lewis Communities. And Tim did a great job of explaining it. It's just finishing off a subdivision, and they're very excited to be able to have the opportunity to move forward and build some more houses in Sparks.
Any questions for Melissa? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open it to the public. Anyone who want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Mr. Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve tentative map associated with PCN 14004, adopting findings T1 through T12, and the facts supporting these findings is set forth in the staff report and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 17 as listed.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Kerrigan, seconded by Councilman Smith to approve agenda item 8.1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Ms. Ratty is an aye. Thanks, Tim. Closed door session, Mr. Driscoll?
No, sir.
Thank you. Comments from the public? Comments from the city council or city manager? Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some announcements. Terms will expire for the following committees on June 30th, 2014. Number one is the Civil Service Commission, 2 members that have 3-year terms. Also in the Parks and Recreation Commission, 3 members with 3-year terms. Persons interested in serving on these committees should complete a community service application available from the city clerk's office. You may also apply online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us. Click on City Services on the web page, and then click on Volunteering Get Involved, and then you would click on Fill out a City of Sparks volunteer application. Applications will be accepted until the close of business on May 30th of 2014. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple questions for the chief, if I can, on an item this week I got a call on, and if he has any updates that he can give us.
Chief of Police?
Yes, I'm sorry. Chief, I received a call on Friday. I went out and checked it out, and saw it again on Saturday. There was a motor crew of Washoe County Sheriff's Office working Sparks streets pretty heavily. Is that a program that's ongoing? What's happening there?
Brian Allen, Chief of Police, for the record. Historically, we have a great working relationship with all the different traffic units within Washoe County. At times, we will ask them to work with us on certain things. This weekend was not one of those circumstances. This weekend was a joining forces campaign for distracted driving, and I was informed by our traffic sergeant that Washoe County was working some streets inside of Sparks during high-flow traffic areas to work on a distracted driving campaign through the Joining Forces grant.
Were we notified that was happening, that they were, because it was pretty, it was heavy. I mean, their presence was heavy, and, they were very aggressive, and was kind of surprised about it, that there was no Sparks PD involved. It was all Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
I have a message into our coordinator of the Joining Forces grant to determine what parts of that campaign we did this weekend. I'm sure we worked some areas this weekend with our units as well, but I would have to wait until I hear back from Officer Nieberlein on whether or not we were notified that Washoe County was working. Just for the record, they aren't required to notify us.
Yeah, I understand. I know it's a territory. They're perfectly legal. My question comes to, is this a tax transfer going on where they're coming into our citizens and transferring their money into the county coffers? And, I believe you've said that any tickets at the NHP, right, and just for your record, NHP was doing the same thing this morning on McCarran Boulevard. They had a patrol out, motors out, also doing. Is this a tax transfer going on that these tickets all go to the county now?
The money that the would eventually be received from those tickets would go into Sparks Justice Court. I can probably assure you that the deputies writing those tickets are surely focused on the safety of our traveling public and not worried about the tax revenues or where those monies are going, sir.
And I'm sure the Sparks Justice Court, which is not the city of Sparks' court, by the way, that is a Washoe County court, has the same thing in mind. So thank you. Appreciate more information if you can find out about it. All right, thank you.
Anyone else, Mr. Lawson?
Well, I'm going to ask Chet then. Where does the money go, Chet?
I've raised this issue with the Highway Patrol, and I complained about it. And I've been told that the Highway Patrol is citing into Sparks Municipal Court. The same should hold true for Washoe County. They should be citing into Sparks Municipal Court as well, so we get those revenues.
Didn't we give over McCarran to the Highway Patrol, did we not?
We gave over accident enforcement to the Highway Patrol.
Okay. Mr. Schmidt?
If I could just refresh my memory real quick, all tickets that are written, doesn't matter if it's written by the city of Sparks, Washoe County Sheriff's, NHP, none of that money goes to the policing agency. That all goes to the court that enforces those tickets. Am I correct? We don't receive any income for the police department on tickets we write.
It's not an income generating business. Nevertheless, it should be going into the Sparks Municipal Court. Those fines go to support our court.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All righty then, Mr. Smith.
Just one question. Tracy, have you been up to Golden Eagle lately? Is the eagle still there? The bronze eagle?
That's a golden eagle.
Oh, the golden eagle?
I was at the youth fields. I didn't go to.
Well, I've driven by a couple of times, and we had a meeting today, and I asked the question because I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm missing it, but would we check in?
Maybe it flew away.
See the turnabout. I thought it was on the sign right next to the road.
Yeah, maybe the IRS confiscated like they took John Squaga's.
Turnabout? Anyway, would you just have somebody check on that? I'm just curious. Maybe Tony Hawk took it. Yeah, maybe Tony Hawk took it.
I stand corrected. It's a roundabout. And, yeah, it's supposed to be right in the roundabout, which is by the multi-purpose fields, which are straight ahead versus the adult softball to the
I
south.
could be looking in the wrong spot then, so.
Maybe you're.
I will check
Maybe I better
that
stop
out
drinking
as soon
while
as I
driving.
can.
All that beer.
Maybe you were at Idlewild.
Yeah, maybe I was. I don't remember.
Think about it. Maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't go.
Yeah, I think I was in Carson City. Maybe I was at the golf course that night. Just
Anyone
check
else?
it out.
Any other comments? Questions? All right, seeing no further business, we're adjourned.